Good morning, guys. Today I'm going to deal with a very important issue of climatic changes that's happening all around, and all of us, the entire globe is being affected in more than one ways, and we need to really know about the consequences of not being a part of this humanistic drive, where all of us are going to pay for it in the long run. And this is the price our Earth, Mother Earth, is not ready to pay, at least for a couple of decades. So I've named it as Code Red for Humanity. The bottom line is that we have 0 years left to avoid dangerous climate change. You can see that our Earth is partly ravaged, partly destroyed, and this picture truly represents how our greenery and vegetations have been the natural victim of our thoughtless act of felling trees, deforestation, and large-scale industrialization that has really paved the way for all the humanity advancement in one sense, but also has brought about unimaginable destruction to our biological diversity. And we can see that Michel Ehman, a lead author of the IPCC 2001 report, told CNN, it's like we're in a race to a healthier, fairer, more resilient, zero carbon world, which all of the world is aiming for. This is a race against the dangerous idea that we can't do this, that there is no way. Actually, it's not too late. And June was supposed to be the hottest month of the century. Probably not just one century, many more centuries. So less than 100 days from COP26, the science couldn't be clearer about that. This is really a code red for all of us. And every decision that we make every day and every fraction of a degree that is adding to already heated environment is going to count. So there's a master plan that's being floated to half sector emissions by 2030. In fact, many of the nations like Germany, and they're really intent on bringing it to zero emission level. That sounds to be a bit ambitious, given the kind of technology transfer and the transition. But it's going to be mandatory for every nation, because all of us already started paying in heftily for this. For decades now, meteorologists and climatologists around the world have been watching the effects of global warming and the weather phenomena. The impact is huge. The changes in precipitation type and the kind of rainfall, the amount of rainfall, more droughts, heat waves, natural disasters like floods, hurricanes, the storms, and wildfires, and frost-free seasons. And so you can see Australian bushfire. I mean, this is a fire that rages for months, and no amount of advanced firefighting equipment or people behind those could really douse or combat this raging fire. You can see super cyclone Amphan in this picture. And we're really going to pay like you can see the droughts, like situation where the earth is parched. This is Kerala, and one of the tiniest states in India, and you can see what kind of delusion, destructions is brought in to. So I remember Barack Obama, when he was a president. He said it poses a great threat to future generations than climate change. I mean, no challenge, even Corona, it might come and go. We will be combating viruses, but this is a virus that affects every individual at the same time. So it's like while the world is fighting from the COVID-19 pandemic, crashing on all over the world, millions dying, thousands losing their jobs, the most existential threat doesn't come from these kind of natural calamities. In fact, it goes from the climate change, because we're intervening, interfering, we're altering, we're modifying our lifestyles, and we're paying for paying the heavy price for this. So it's of paramount importance that we start thinking in terms of how not to be negligent, and you know, his project sheds light on various factors affecting climate change, the effects and possible remedies. The aim of what was that, I mean, bringing about almost half to the, I mean, emission level, and a country like India has been suffering in the form of locust attacks in 25 years. Now, probably it sounds bizarre that how could a climate change could bring about you know, war-like situation from the locusts on the vegetation, but it happens because if they're driven away from their habitats, they're going to go somewhere and they will be attacking. So the sea level rise in 1 to 8 feet by 2100, I'm 2100. I mean, it's like not far away. It's just 80, I mean, less than 80 years, because of global warming, permafrost and ice are melting massively the poles, increasing the sea level at a rate never known before. And we experience on a daily basis what kind of erratic, you know, changes in the weather phenomena and weather pattern is being witnessed in all over the world. You know, in a century, the increase reached 18 centimeter. I mean, 100 years, the last 100 years, including 6 centimeter in the last 20 years. I mean, it's like accelerated. The worst case scenario rises to 1 meter by 2100. Now, if 1 meter rise is going to spell disaster from majority of the regions lying in the sea level, I mean, next to sea level, and they're going to be submerged. The acidification of the ocean is also another great concern. In fact, the large amount of CO2 captured by the ocean makes them more acidic, arousing serious questions about adaptation to seashells or coral shells. So when we look at these, you know, graphs, the emissions of greenhouse gas worldwide, 1990 to 2010, we can see the methane gases rise, carbon dioxide, and I mean, it's like hopping amount of unimaginable amount of carbon dioxide being added. Probably because of the transport, because the industry is heavy industry, because our reckless felling of the trees, and you see global greenhouse gas emission. And then this gas is 2%, nitrous oxide is 6%, methane is 16%, carbon dioxide is 11%. Now the amount of carbon dioxide that's being fossil fuels and industrial processes is accounts for 65%. Just imagine how huge the impact that our Earth is going to have with this. So global warming is a phenomenon of climate change characterized by a general increase in average temperature of the Earth. I mean, the temperature all over the globe, and that's going to modify the weather balances, is going to upset the ecosystem for a long time. So it's directly linked to the increase of greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, worsening the greenhouse effect. Now you can see in this picture how the sunlight is being trapped. Changes in animal migration life cycles, changing rain and snow patterns, stronger storms, higher temperature, more heat waves, more droughts and wildfire, and less snow and ice caps. That means the ice caps are melting, and the thawing of permafrost is adding to the sea level, and the rise in sea level is incessant, I mean, unstopping. So the changes in the plant life cycles, that's obviously going to change the other fauna and flora of the universe. So the thing is, what can be done to resist climate change? First, we must admit that climate change is everyone's problem. It's not individual, it's not community, it's not you know, particular region of the world, it's not a particular country of the world. Probably some of the countries, they are more accountable, they can be held more responsible simply because they are the largest user or consumers, or they have the biggest number of factories, and their technology is not so updated, and they're still using the coal-based and thermal and energy and all that. So no agency, no government alone, I mean, our scientists can fix it for us. We're all in this together. We got here because of our lifestyle and habit. We can see that we're becoming the largest, I mean, consumers, and our consumption level is growing at such an alarming rate that on a day-to-day basis, the kind of littering, the waste, and all. So our habit to exploit nature has to change. That we have been over-exploiting nature. It's not exploitation of nature is not bad per se, because nature is meant for us, and we are meant for it. And God Almighty has provided us with all sorts of provisions in this nature through flora and fauna, the foods and animals. And but the thing is, when we start exploiting, blackmailing, we start our over consuming. Obviously, there's a limit to the endurance of this earth. So if we just take a look at the effects on biodiversity, and the effects on human, you can see the increase of temperature, the climate upheavals, disturb the ecosystem, modify the condition cycles of plant reproduction, and the scarcity of resources and climate change, changing life habits and migratory cycles of animals. We can see that we already, there are so many animals and birds are already on the brink of extinction. And they're disappearing very fast, and there's no way we can bring them back to life, including endemic species, or conversely the intrusion of invasive species that threaten crops and other animals. So instead of having check and balances, we are really losing the very core of our environmental equilibrium. I would say equilibrium. Human beings are not spared by these upheavals. I mean, climate change is affecting all of us. I mean, our children, our coming generations, and you can see diseases, you can see lungs diseases and heart ailments, and because of the kind of quality of air that we are breathing in, it's not really up to the mark, and it's already shaking our social health and geopolitical balance in many parts of the world. The scarcity of resources like food and energy gives rise to new conflict. You can see that half the world, in African countries, they're already starvation. There is drought, there is crop failure, there is a locust, and there is lots of damage to the crops, and rising sea levels of floods are causing population migration. I mean, small island states are in the front line. I mean, there's so many islands are disappearing. You're surprised to know that the hundreds of islands which are no more on the maps, and the estimated number of climate refugees by 2050 is estimated to be 250 million people. Now, these 250 million people, we have hungry up. Just have a look of this kind of destruction of this. You see the kind of water and the knee-deep water people floating. It looks like an ocean. I mean, it used to be a city, and the kind of deluge that has come. So why are the cities a hotspot of global warming, and why the cities contribute so much to the emission levels? And it's simply because city has a larger concentration of the population, and there's a lot of migration of people in order to have a quick riches, in order to have more opportunities, in order to improve their lifestyles, and they simply migrate towards the bigger cities. And I like India. I'm talking of India. I mean, Delhi alone has population, like 100 million plus population. Bombay and Tokyo and the other New York City. So most of these mega cities, they're attracting people simply because they offer more opportunities for better life quality. So it's like the city geometry is more of constructions and less of vegetations and destruction of forestry. And the heat from human activities, I mean, we have cars, and probably some people have two cars, and they're all the time in their cars. And so they're using fossil fuels and hard produced fossil fuels on a daily basis. Heat retaining properties. I mean, there are some houses they're all air conditioned, and we use conditioning all the time, so it traps the heat. That doesn't allow let the heat in. The water crisis. I mean, we're using a lot of water, and a lot of vegetation being destroyed. And so what is in the offing? There's nothing good to hear about it. The bombshell report is that even by some medical nations agree, I mean, like Germany, USA, and Japan, and some countries are really trying hard to bring back the situation in control. When they meet in Glasgow in UK later this year, an immediate drastic cut should be 20 to 30 years to see global temperature stabilize. I mean, it's not about bringing back to, I'm making the earth cooler. It's just to stabilize. The benefits of air quality would come. I mean, our efforts would pay in the long run. But if we're thinking of the reducing the, kind of emission level and heat, that's not going to happen to at least for 20 to 30 years. The world is warming faster than we anticipated, believe me. The global heat is on track to hit 1.5 degrees Celsius around 2030, a decade earlier than projected in 2018. And according to the Bombshell report, the sea level is rising. It's like, rate between 1971 over 1.3 meter a year. Now this more than doubled to 3.7 year between 2006 to 2018. I mean, if it is continued, the trend continues, not checked. Global mean sea level rise increased by 0.20, 0.15 to 0.25, and between 1901 and 1918. So this kind of alarming rate at which the temperature is rising is going to spell disaster like this. Just look at the Siberian, Siberia, the wild forest. I mean, it's like heating, the heat wave, wild forest gets heated, and then there is fire, and this fire conflagrates, and it spreads like anywhere, and it's kilometers after kilometers, miles after miles. And there's no way. People have to be evacuated. In the last hour, people die. The forestry dies. Then we have animals dying. There is drought-like situations, and then the warmer planet means more extreme heat events. I mean, we can very well anticipate that the global temperature is rising. The chances of experiencing a 50-year event increase. I mean, it's like 50 event in 2% per year to nearly 80% per year. And this is horrible. I mean, the 50-year event is when the temperature exceeds a level seen only once during the 50-year baseline period from 1850 to 1900. So the kind of figure that we come across is that we have been adding to this heating or temperature rise much more. I mean, it's an alarming rate than we had ever anticipated. To give you some of the facts, like in June, an unprecedented heat wave in the Pacific Northwest killed hundreds of people. These are some of the natural, disastrous calamities. I mean, like a resultant impact on the people. Like hundreds of people shattered records in Oregon, Washington, Idaho. Then Canada logged new national record high when a town in British Columbia soared to 121.3 degrees Fahrenheit. Unthinkable, unimaginable. I mean, 121.3 degrees Fahrenheit of the heat. I mean, this is around the limit to what we can ever imagine happening in such a short span of time. You can see this kind of smog. This comes from smoke and then fog, and it's almost obliterates and obscures the sunlight, and there's these acid. It's like an acid rain situation. You can see China, how the buildings are being flooded and people are trapped inside. It looks like they're inside, it's a floating city. So it's once a decade storm. You can see this picture from here, how this kind of stormy weather is almost has let the house flying there. You can see this, how it is almost gone to so it's almost it's so disastrous that, look at this picture now. I mean, there's ice caps. What kind of melting? I mean, most of these ice caps are thawing, melting. It's the glacier is adding to the water level to the sea nearby. The rivers are flooded, and and this leads to the rise in the fall. And say in Turkey, the helicopters have been trying to douse the fire with the gases, but it's not really effective. Believe me, these are just a kind of ad hoc approaches to solving the issue. Now the thing is, it cannot stop hurricanes and typhoons and cyclones visiting or striking us. I mean, it's more intense. I mean, top wind speed will increase, and because of the rising sea level, coastal flooding will be more extensive. The report warns. I mean, it's not just flooding of usual type that we experience. It's going to be to like, submerge the entire area, and it will take months to bring back life to normalcy. So I'm showing these pictures from all over the globe, and it's not just eastern part of the world or western part of the world. It's like China, Canada, Australia. We have India. So look at this California picture. What a devastation! I mean, this is a huge fire, and it's conflagration for months, and there's no way we can really combat. Look at this Italy scene. This is a more frequent. I mean, this is deluges of the biblical proportion. It's not like usual flooding. It's of unheard of. Rainfall over land has become more intense in the 1980s, and the reports also says human influence is the main driver. We are indirectly or directly responsible for this mess. We have got to take care of. Look at this Germany. And recently, I was really aghast at I couldn't say. I mean, Angela Merkel wasn't in Germany, and she had to cut short her visit from the European country, and she had to come back to see. I mean, the devastation was of such of such a biblical proportion that she had to cancel her visit. Look at the Germany. I mean, all the houses have been destroyed, and not a single house is spared. Now, this kind of destruction, it will take years for renovation, or bringing back life to normalcy. And you can see this horrible steep rise in the temperature from 1950s until 2020. So look at this: 0 centigrade is 0.5, then 1.1, and then 1.5. This is 1.5 within just how many years? It was like 70 years. So this is not acceptable for the world community and world leaders. So they have been trying hard. I mean, look at this Greece. And in fact, more than 93% of the heat from global warming has gone into the ocean. Now, this heat is being trapped by ocean, and that's causing a lot of damages to the ocean lives. And I mean, like marine lives. Warming is going to the oceans. The Indian Ocean is warming at the fastest rate. So that's another, bizarre and deplorable state of the things. Currently, the global mean temperature rising 1.1 degree in California. So I look at this Turkey thing, oh my gosh, in Siberia, it's like all smoke. I mean, everywhere is smoke. Look at this Western Canada, and the US recorded scorching heat waves in June 2021. I mean, June was supposed to be the hottest month of the centuries. With the station British Columbia seeing a figure of 49.6 degrees. That was 5% above average temperature. Like 5 degrees Celsius. 5 degrees? Oh, that's too much. Oh my gosh, look at this. And the cars are being, flying on water. It seems like they have turned into small boats. I mean, it's knee deep. It's a huge city, and there's no way out of flushing this water at such. Look at this house, and houses are flying in the air. Like such a destruction of such scale. Oh my gosh! Look at this picture here. You can see there is a canal. There's like is a river body, and it's a stream, and both sides, of most of the houses are next to them. It's like muddy water, and then mud is slinging. It stays, it stings, and it's so harmful for other kinds of abiotic and biotic, species. And look at this. It's a green thing. How it has turned out to be almost like it's so horrible to look at. And not only that, the marine life is getting affected because we can't clean up the mess inside the ocean. It's too deep. It's too Herculean. It's such a Herculean task, and it's a mammoth task to clean. This guy could be about a scientist. He's trying to look into the fisheries and other kinds of biotic animals and species in order to see the impact of the spillage of the oil. And sometimes we have tanker spillage of the oil. And this lady from CNN, she's reporting about a live from disaster management scenes, and we see most of the disaster vehicles and helicopters are pressed into services, and it's still not much of the safety, and people have been evacuated overnight, and it took weeks for the people to be taken to altogether different places away from this disaster scene. Look at this Indian Ocean, the way it's warming up at the faster rate. Than look at the tragic. I mean, these are fishermen. They have boats sinking. There is high waves and ebbs and tides, and sort of deluge of the sort of big order. Now, what are we in for? I mean, what are we anticipating, and how geared we are for? I mean, are we really prepared to meet this kind of disastrous eventuality? That imminent threats, the mitigation studies submitted by nations. I mean, some of the countries that they're in the Paris Agreement, they agree that we're insufficient to keep the global temperature increase within 1.5 degrees. I mean, it's beyond control now. Even if now we don't act, the world body doesn't act and take stringent measures of limiting the usage of CFC, chlorofluorocarbons, and if we don't limit it to 2 degrees limit, it's also important to note that globally we have failed to even reach near the committed curbs and emissions. I mean, like, we haven't been anywhere near the expected curbing, or limiting the emissions, because we haven't been able to switch over to the bio-friendly, environment-friendly technology so far. I mean, poor nations, the struggling nations, they have to use the diesel, petrol, and fossil fuels unless they have electric vehicles or battery-operated zero emissions or hydrogen fuel cells technology. And it takes a lot of investment for migrating from one technology and fossil fuel-based technology to the other one. And India needs urgent disaster proofing. Why? Because look at the kind of the scale of destruction that we look. This is like in an African country. I mean, animals are being roasted alive. There is fire, conflagration. There is all kinds of parched lands. That no crop destruction. There has been. So what are the bold steps that the world body can think of taking in order to curb this emission level? The solution lies in using renewable energies. I mean, like, we cannot depend on fossil fuels because it's not going to last forever. I mean, as estimation of the fossil fuels, that is not going to last more than 50 years. In fact, to tell you the conservative estimates, it's only 20 years. So renewable energy produced from sources that don't deplete or can be replenished. I mean, there is chances of renewable energy being like sun, solar power. These, you can see these turbines, and these wind turbines they're ready solutions, although they look really ugly, and they in fact require a lot of investment for poor nations. It's hard for them, but ultimately it pays. And within a human lifetime, it can be replenished. It takes around 30-40 years to change the blades and motor. The first way to prevent climate change is to move away from the fossil fuel. So the quickest possible solution could be that our dependence, reliability on this fossil fuel has to be sacrificed. So the alternative energy could include, like, we can see solar. That's a potent energy and inexhaustible. I mean, we will always have sunlight. And those countries who are lying on the equatorial regions, they receive almost a large amount of solar power. We have wind. I mean, if we have elevated spaces like mountains and hills and even elevations, and we can have plenty of wind. And we don't need much of the stormy wind, just wind. And biomass is another. Then geothermal. Under the earth we have lots of renewable source of geothermal energy, and hydropower comes handy. India has become self-reliant using the hydropower energy apart from the nuclear one, and hydropower projects are really clean, green, and it's cost-effective also. Ultimately, the cheapest kind of energy that can be produced is from hydropower. Because it has got other uses. I mean, you can irrigate the farmlands, and so let's stop using transport in the form of only vehicles with run on fossil fuels and petrol diesels. And so let's go biking, let's go cycling, let's go. I mean, as far as practicable, and like in Sweden and other Scandinavian countries, they've already adopted it, and they change and modify their lifestyles, and they're living healthier than the other European countries. So why not take up in this kind of transport, which is handy, which energizes you, makes keep you healthier, then even zero emissions, and it saves the life of millions worldwide. These are solar panels. They can be erected. They can be it's like piecing together, assembling and assembling. It's cheaper, not really, and we just need open spaces, higher planes, and we can use terraces of the buildings and large buildings and multi-story buildings, and we can trap, and give you an inexhaustible source of solar power for a very long time. So and instead of using own cars, going for everywhere for making errands and any kind of, we can go for public transportation. And that's also being run on, non-fossil based fuel. Like it can be electricals, it can be hydropower, it can be fuel cell. And carpooling is a good idea. I mean, if at all you cannot have any public transportation available in the area, there's one thing that I'm saying, individuals shouldn't run a big car just for himself, and carpooling means that 4 to 5 people can always be accommodated in even a small car. So why not go for, like Uber, worldwide they have a carpooling services. You'll have to spend a little more time waiting for the vehicle to arrive, but that's a great idea. Electrical hydrogen mobility can definitely help reduce CO2 emissions and thus fight global warming. So I've already talked about so much of the evil effects and the ill effects of climate change, because it's the increase in temperature worldwide is going to be very disastrous for almost the entire fabric of the universe. Like CO2 emissions, sun expects an increase of between 1.5, and that's lethal. An average temperature 2100 is going to be like 34.7 to 41.5 degrees. I mean, just imagine. It's going to be like staying in the hot sun, under the sun. Humanity, it would have harmful consequences to humanity in the biosphere. We know that there's radiation, and we have scorching radiation from sunlight that's cancerous, carcinogenic. So let's stop glaciers from being melting, and they are our preserves, and let's hope that our glaciers are preserved in their truth. Look the kind of natural habitat, and because they're disappearing in alarming rate in Greenland glaciers and Antarctica. So actually, there's no going back from some change in the climate system. We have already done so much damage there. There's no point in getting back and looking back and rethinking about what to do and what not to do. It's time now to act. So some changes in the climate has to come from all over the world, and obviously the rich nations, the responsible nations, and the bigger nations, they have to take initiatives, and they will have to come forward by offering alternative source of energy. And this UN environmental program, she is of the opinion that larger share of the accountability has to come from those nations which are really doing the largest amount of damage by using public transportation, industrial waste, and kind of technological littering all around them. You can say just imagine next door neighbor or in your home, how much of the littering and how much of the waste product every day we are producing. So we have become consumers and consumerists. We keep buying things, we keep disposing them off. We don't even think about before buying, because things are cheaper. That doesn't mean that you keep buying and accumulating them and forget about what kind of damage you're doing to the entire fabric of the environmental globe. So these are some of the resources that I have used to highlight the issue of how disastrous how lethal and how, you know, imminent. It's like, you know, there's no time to wait. It has to be altered. So Greta Thunberg, that girl of 14 years, she was right when she really gave a clarion call to the world bodies and all the world leaders that it's time to act. We cannot just turn a blind eye towards this, which is affecting all of. In fact, I've been experiencing a rise, a meteoric rise in the heat, and wherever you are, man. I mean, based in Jeddah, and I could see erratic kind of, you know, heat waves and prolonged kind of summer, and there's no rainfall. And I mean, there's a visual, apparent disruptive pattern in the weather phenomena all over the world. So it needs to be taken care of, and we unitedly can really stand together by not, just looking up forward to the government agencies, the particular in environmental protection groups and all those NGOs. In fact, the charity begins at home. It has to come from the individuals. If we modify our own lifestyle, we adopt certain ways which are really not contrary to the environment, and which are really, you know, helping our environment to reboot. And we should use those kind of, you know, material which can be replenished. Just using plastic bags, and over the time, you know, those kind of they never rot, and they stay for millions of years. So why not take up stand? Why not unitedly fight this? Why not teach our children how to be a good user, how to be a responsible world citizen, and we can have a better India, we can have a better nation, a better world. We go to this nationalgeography.com, and the climate changes, and this will give you a glimpse of it's a horrifying picture of how blatantly, how you know, irresponsibly and recklessly we have been damaging our environment so far. So it's time to wake up, and it's a clarion call from my side to each and everyone that we must act in unison, and we should join our hands to fight back this universal challenge. And we need to catch up with and really learn something from listening to the people who are for the environment and who are fighting for the environment day and night, and they're really allocating and dedicating themselves towards saving our Mother Earth, which is the only one on this planet. I mean, we can't quit this planet. We could think of going to Mars, but it's too early to think of migrating the entire world, mankind, from this planet. This is beautiful Mother Earth, and let's not ravage its beauty, and let's you know, continue to look at our flora and fauna as if they are the most precious gifts from Almighty God. Thank you so very much. I'll catch up with the later part of this environmental issues probably in the next video. Thank you so much.